Dear colleagues, I'd like to thank all of you who are strong enough to stay on in this room up to the end of our today's sessions. We have listened to quite interesting presentations and discussions that show that the industry of transportation logistics is in good health in this country. Our final session is devoted to the development of IT technologies and everything related to them. IT becomes quite important for companies today in terms of ensuring their success in business. I don't want to make long introductions. Our session now is quite short. It's going to last for 1 hour. Let me introduce them to you. First of all, it is Artyom Kushneryov, advisor to Rossayuz ex-Prom. Alexander Mikhailov works for Center for Fishing and Communications. Next is Inessa Yakovleva, who works for the Department of IT of AZD. Next is Alexander Turlichkin, Project Office of GLONASS. Then Maxim Korneev, General Director of RusRef. And as I have said, our timetable is quite strict today. That's why, to be able to answer questions from the audience and discuss any subjects that are of interest to us, I suggest we stick to 5 minutes per presentation. First of all, I'd like to give the floor to Artyom Kushneryov. Mr. Kushneryov, you have been working with the use of cooling agents and IT support to them. What do you think is important for us in terms of transportation of perishables in the short term? The floor is yours. Use the microphone, please. Well, as a matter of fact, we are not conducting research ourselves. However, we have been following the developments in terms of international legislation. All of you heard about the Nantes Protocol. Probably not everybody is so happy about it. The problem is that all of us have commitments that have been confirmed by our government. So it is important for us to abide by them according to the edict of our government. We have 2 timetables. First of all, it is the reduction in CO2 content. By 2030, the production of such substances will need to be stopped. And in 2020, it was decided that between 2020 and 2030, the refrigeration systems will have to be serviced as usual. This level, our time schedule is quite strict here too. We've been given more time for our work. However, by 2025, it should be reduced by 35%, by 2029 by 35%, then by 2040 it's going to be 70%. And therefore, in less than 20 years, we'll have just 15% only left to us.
Okay, the CFCs and HFCs, we'll have to get rid of them by 20 32, and the HFCs, the factories use agent 507 and so on, and the agents that are well known to the refrigerator people. The problem is very serious. Also, there is an alternative which is being discussed, and I think we'll discuss it during the debates. You know that any system that is installed allows for leaks. And these leaks may constitute up to 50%. And the more fridges and refrigerator systems we install at our plants, especially with HFCs that are greenhouse gases, the less we will have for service and maintenance. We cannot remove from those agreements because then the fourth article of the Montreal Protocol will prohibit us the import of those substances and the equipment that uses it. And all of the countries of the UN, even more countries than there's at the UN, are members of the Montreal Protocol. The UN has 190 countries, and the Montreal Protocol was signed by 197 parties. So we have an alternative. That's ammonia, CO2. There are hydrocarbon agents which are not being developed, and no one limits the use of equipment that really results in global warming. Our Belarusian colleagues have already launched their own programs, and I think we will be discussing our proposals with the industry. But unless we make a decision right now, we may find ourselves in a trap. So, we will be allowed to make a big fleet of equipment using those substances, and then we'll be told this cannot be maintained and serviced. This is what is produced in the Russian Federation and what was imported in 2022. The HFCs are not produced in Russia. Ammonia and CO2 and hydrocarbons are manufactured, but we don't manufacture any equipment using it. Well, it's a good thing that friendly countries produce them, but still there is a danger. There's a big accumulated experience. I can share it with any of the participants concerning which substances can be used in what industries, and there are environmental exhibitions, and there is a virtual exhibition of the sustainable cold chain. And we need that the green transition is a transition to technological safety of Russia, because those agents are present in Russia. There are companies that manufacture equipment working with CO2. Partly it is made of imported parts, but compressors, for instance, are not manufactured, practically not manufactured in Russia, either for HFCs or for natural agents. And it's very important not to lose this moment when we will place certain barriers for the use of equipment that has a high potential of inflicting global warming, so that we are not in that trap that we actually established for ourselves. Hopefully, I was within time. Well, Artyom, 7 minutes. Nevertheless, I cannot but ask this question. Still, summarizing the result of your presentation, we have some capacity to develop those technologies. What are we missing? The regulations? Yes, we don't have the appropriate regulations. Now, every decisions are made like that. For instance, the Decree 206 says that we need to produce so much by the year 2025. But if we take the EU or Belarusian experience, they say that that's not enough. We need to say clearly that in this sector, we may use ammonia. It is efficient and it's normal. And in this sector, we cannot do that because we will have still to use the HFCs. Should we work at the level of this Montreal Protocol, or shall we raise a question within the Eurasian Economic Union? Yes, lots of our colleagues in Eurasian Union are doing that. Belarus is a very good example of that. I shared it with my colleagues. I shared the decisions that Belarus has already prepared. We are also preparing our proposals, but certainly the Ministry of Industry and Trade must be involved. All the interested, all the stakeholders, they must understand that this is serious. We are always thinking that China will help us, but they are all observing this protocol. Well, so I think we are ready for a lot of legislative work. And if we cannot avoid it, we must be at the head of it. So we must provide the regulations that will be necessary for the development of our technologies. Thank you very much. The next, I would like to pass the floor to Alexander, who represents the Rosrybolovstvo, Russian fishery. Of course, we've been talking quite a lot about how we ship fish and what problems exist there. Alexander, what is the development of digitalization and digital technologies in this sphere? Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the floor and the possibility to speak. Can you hear me? Yes. Actually, I don't represent the Rosrybolovstvo. I represent the Center for Monitoring System and Communications for Fishing, and the subject of cold chain with deliveries of fish to different destinations is something new for us. Last year, in February, we all woke up in a new reality, and one of the new things was that the fishing industry was given a task of providing uninterrupted supply of fish and seafoods to the domestic market. Well, we set up a working group to monitor the prices and deliveries, and then we started dealing in series with something that was new for us, and that is the fish products. We identified especially important kinds of fish products, which, in our opinion, were most frequently bought in all the regions, and we monitored the situation. We took the data from Roselkosnadzor, from the Mercury system. We took the certificates, the veterinary certificates for fish products. We removed different non-consistent data from these. Well, and there's quite a lot of that in those certificates. And now we had an opportunity to understand where are the refrigerators, where are the fish stored, where is the fish is stored, and the regulator started to understand how it gets there. So this is the background. Right now, we assess this experience as positive, and that data allowed us to us and the regulator to understand how the price is formed. The matter is that at the stage of transportation from the place of harvest from the Far East, each time 70 to 80% of fish is harvested in the Far East, and all that fish goes to the European part of Russia, where most of the population live. So that fish and those fish products constantly move from one warehouse, from one big wholesaler goes to another, and we see that there's quite a lot of transitions and handling which impact the quality of fish and the price, which is more important. And one of the tasks that one of the problems what we are resolving is to reduce the number of those hops so that the people in Moscow would eat high quality fish and at prices that are really affordable. We know how much fish is consumed by the people. The task is to increase that amount of fish, because compared to European countries and Asian countries, we consume less fish, and making fish products more requested and more recognizable is one of the tasks for the agencies. And we are the tool, a digital tool that allows to monitor this process and to provide for it. What do we have from the standpoint of IT solutions? As of now, using my previous experience, I can say that in the past, I collaborated very closely with one of the biggest retail networks, which about 10 years ago installed sensors in their fridges in order to find whether the door was open or closed. They looked at it from the standpoint of saving energy, because if the door was open, more power was consumed, and that meant more costs. And now, as far as I know, all of the equipment, well, in fact, those are computers from which you can get data, and correspondingly, big retail chains collect that data. Because we established very serious relationships both with wholesalers and retail sellers, we collect the information in order to monitor the quality of fish products, alongside with what Rosnadzor is doing. By the way, we, as the competency center of the Rosrybellovstvo that provides or develops software, and we are a state company, but we are accredited at the Ministry of Digital Development. We develop different solutions that allow to monitor the fish from the time when they set the trawl, and down to the time when the crab is on board. Everything is reflected in daily reports, which we collect, and then the Rosnadzor is using it to generate certificates. So this is a monitoring system, and we're an important part of it. You know, there will be an experiment in labeling caviar and canned products. We will not participate in it. This will be at the level of Rossельхознадзor, but they get our data, and the agency is interested in solving social problems on the one hand, and on the other hand, they want to have ready tools at hand. So we are in the middle of our journey, and I think that next year some pilot projects will be already underway. From my own experience, and from my experience of talking to organizations that distribute fish products and HoReCa, there's an interesting issue. The certificate is issued for a batch of product. Then this batch travels along the country, and other batches may be formed using it. It may be part of a bigger batch, but for a restaurant and the catering organizations, it's important to not to get a big chunk of pollock, but they're interested in getting a package with one salmon, for instance, or one other fish. And this tool is does not exist in Russia. And restaurants mostly buy Chilean salmon because the Chileans can package one fish and bring it to the destination where it will be defrosted. The same relates to other products. Alexander, time? Yes, I'm coming to an end. We are making a separate monitoring organization for the red harvest in Vladivostok. I mean, for the salmon harvest in Vladivostok, and we monitor the tariffs for shipment and the condition of the rolling stock, which brings it to the European part of Russia. Well, I'm finished. Thank you very much. So I can state by way of summary that all of us as consumers of fish products may be sure that the government is watchful of what is happening in this market, and every second they know what fish exists in the country and where it is stored. I hope that this work will be completed and we will always eat fresh and high quality fish. In order to complete this subject of related to state regulation that we've been discussing today, I want to pass the floor to Inessa Yakovleva. Actually, RZD in the market of companies of the Russian Federation is the leader in the development of digital technologies. Please tell us what is especially notable that RZD is promoting in the contents of this discussion. Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. Thank you for giving me the floor. And thanks to the organizers, because I believe that in some 30 years, when I write memoirs, I will specially note that I participated in the first international conference. This is a significant event. I want to tell you about the main areas which RZD is working on. The digital transformation strategy that is adopted is global and large-scale enough. I will only speak about one digital platform out of 7, which is called Digital Platform of a Multimodal Freight Transportation, which relates to the subject we are discussing. I listened to all of the presentations today, and During several sessions, it was quite obvious that there's an urgent need related to making a transparent environment for all of the transportation parties. It doesn't matter whether this relates to what kind of freight it is, whether that's perishables. The perishables are very susceptible to destruction, and there's quite a lot of technologies that allow to bridge the gaps that exist in any transportation.
When we speak about seamless logistics, we'll understand what it means. This is a trend which involves the use and the implementation of electronic data exchange. We don't have to tell people much more about it. Everybody understands that it means communication not only between clients and carriers, but between all the other participants of the process. So in order to achieve the goals that have been set forth today, we need to increase the use of blockchain technologies, briefly outline how RZD is acting about it. We need to expand our cooperation with all the other parties, including state regulators, to include the existing technologies. We have started a project with October Railways now, and currently more than 3 participants have been connected to this platform. And when somebody says that we'll lack a unified information resource to be able to follow online what is happening with the shipment at any particular point in time, I can assure you that the application of chain technology helps solve this problem. Certainly, it is not such a cheap technology to implement, but the investment in this technology does pay back within a pretty short time. For the opening of the merchant port in Vladivostok, we sent them our design of distributed data register. We did it jointly with Cisco. Since then, more participants were added to this list. We have more clients and carriers that want to be part of it. The clients are interested in watching the digital footstep and minimize the cost of handling complaints, and they want to be full-fledged participants of this haulage process. And jointly with Hotel K company, we propose to implement a pilot project that will go beyond the borders of the Russian Federation. That will actually involve transit shipments, transit carriage, jointly with RZD under the auspices of the Ministry of Transport of Russia. A multimodal transportation project is now underway. In 2022, the Minister of Transport launched a product which helps connect automotive carriers to the system, and now a large number of them have joined the project, and it is now possible to issue electronic documents using this unified platform. And given the current situation and the current projects underway at RZD, the so-called multi-lock project, it is a service that is offered to the clients for transportation, helping them choose the rolling stock, operator services, build up a logistics chain. And this year, we are implementing it jointly with GIS, and in this way, we are getting information on the railway part of transportation, thus ensuring that the national platform has information available on multimodal transportation in general. And in fact, the unified information space that I have mentioned for cargo haulage is also emphasized through the Intertran project. The project participants should understand very well the bottom line, because it helps to get rid of paperwork, given the opportunity to follow customs transit fully digitally, fully electronically. It covers all the stations in the Russian Federation, and it starts from the Asia Pacific region, and then the project now extends over to Belarus. We haven't managed yet to extend it to Kazakhstan, because in Kazakhstan they haven't yet found a solution for using electronic documents for mandatory procedures related to the closing of customs transit. But we do hope that what has already been done towards this end, when we can send the electronic information about customs accord, will be possible to implement in all the space of EAEU. We are interacting quite with other parts of the unified information space to use mobile solutions for primary documents, for raw documents with electronic signatures. We have set up a portal of preliminary information which can be used by any operator for custom declarations and for providing electronic format documents. Under Intertran project, we can send our documents electronically with the necessary services that are then sent to the customs authorities to close the procedure of transit. Now, the use of this technology has made it possible reduce by more than 7 days the time necessary for delivery. I haven't been trying to sell anything that RZD can offer. My purpose was only to share the experience of RZD that could be useful to you. Thank you very much. I didn't mean you were going to promote any products to sell them. I just mean that since I work for a company which is related to RZD, today I was a bit shocked that one of the speakers today said that RZD is impossible to predict. I hope that you have seen for yourselves now how advanced RZD is. And speaking about customs transit, I should say that next Monday we will have a meeting on the subject that are still pending. Thank you very much. It's quite informative and interesting. I hope all those present in this room have learned a lot of useful things from your presentation. Now I'd like to give the floor to Alexander Turlichkin, head of the project office of GLONASS. And it is important for us to see all the opportunities that they can offer. Today, it has already been announced that GLONASS signed an agreement with Eurasian Agro Express on the sidelines of the Eastern Economic Forum. So what are the objectives to be achieved through it? First of all, I wanted to thank the organizers of this conference. Thank you very much, Mikhail, because this conference, this event is of key importance to GLONASS. Mostly we have been involved in various transportation security projects for emergency response. And when we look at the experience that we have, it is applicable in the current situation for the evolution of the system of IT solutions for cold chains. Well, I am using it in the way we were accustomed in the past when we called it freezing system. Anyway, today at GLONASS, we are cooperating with various manufacturers of vessels, of automotive vessels. We do understand how to correctly set up an independent system. We have a good experience. If we look at 2020, a good experiment was conducted then that showed that not everything is so good with the system of uninterrupted monitoring of temperature. If we look at the results of the experiments, you will see that the distance was, the covered distance was 145 kilometers, and the period monitored was 32 days at most, and the number of incidents was 65 incidents, and the number of deviations was 19. It shows that there are areas where we need to introduce improvements. And if we look at the reasons, at the causes of these non-conformities, we should think about them. Today we have heard a lot about the necessity of improving the regulations. And according to, we should clearly understand how deviations are discussed or described in those standards. Today it has been said that minus 60 degrees is just the best temperature possible, but we shouldn't forget that we need some standard temperature to be adhered to. The next thing is bylaws that we need to be guided by that will determine our business in the industries concerned. Advertising is necessary for business and trade. Today, we have a kind of ecosystem which is pretty sophisticated. Each industry, each company has its own IT system, develops its own technologies. In fact, we've been working concurrently while we need to combine our efforts to come up with a unified platform. And I, on behalf of GLONASS, can say that GLONASS is ready to provide you with the necessary platform and resources for this purpose, and we could improve it and add more necessary features to it, because, as I said, it is ready as far as we are concerned. Speaking about today's challenges, the key aspect, as it has already been stressed today, is food security. When speaking about the national level of food security, we need to solve this problem. In the short term, what are our tasks today? We have said that many international manufacturers and producers have left our market, and this is a challenge to us. And in the near future, we need to obtain very strong knowledge and skills. That's why we have no right to relax. First of all, we need to ensure localization of software as well as hardware. A lot has been said today about compressors. I remember that when I was a student, compressors were manufactured without a problem in this country. We do remember the refrigerators of domestic origin. That is to say, the solutions are there. We just need to look for them, to get back to them, and we need to create something new, not necessarily copying what exists elsewhere. Another priority is industry applications of the cold chain for other industries, not only for perishables and food, but also we should have a broader perspective applied. We need to find a solution to ensure global financing. Speaking about long-term objectives today, first of all, we need to set up a unified, reliable system for all the users. It should be just like GLONASS, that opens a lot of opportunities for every user, regardless of the market it comes from. There are standards that describe everything, and there are businesses that implement it. All of it now is at our disposal now. That is to say, we are able to provide you with this reliable system where personal data will be protected, and I am ready to share our knowledge and expertise with you to be able to create this kind of reliable environment. So what is our future like? Today, there are 4 key avenues of development. First of all, it is the Industrial Revolution. Briefly, it is software and biotech and new types of transport. The first one, that is to say, software, is implies digitalization. We, all of us, can feel its impact, starting from public services. It took me 2 days on one occasion to try and sign in with the diary of my son. Next is biotech, because today we're speaking about food products that are produced or harvested. Well, today we are even talking about meat chops to be made using digital technologies. Speaking about AI, we won't be able to do anything without artificial intelligence. And as a chef blogger said today about temperatures -60 or -40, if artificial intelligence is applied in the right way, it will help to solve analytical tasks so that the fish that is delivered to our tables, and if artificial intelligence can analyze our preferences, we'll be able then to choose the best temperature to ensure quick delivery.
And that is the AI. Then the new modes of transportation. Because of the new sources of power, Alexander, I'll have to ask you to wrap up. I want to express a desire we need to unite, we need to go fast, we need to go wide, to embrace all of the industries, and then the solution will be good. And most importantly, we're talking about temperature monitoring, but it seems to me that tomorrow we will meet again and we'll be discussing how to monitor the biological condition of the foodstuffs, maybe by some special artificial nose that will sniff the product, because the key issue that was sounded today is a delay at the veterinary inspection. Why? So we need to help them. We need to propose some solution that will allow, in the process of transportation, to control the biological condition. What do the biologists test for molds or for pathogens? I'm finished. Thank you very much, Alexander. On such high note about the artificial nose and Rosselschossnadzor, well, I would like to return all of us to the practical mode. Quite a lot of speakers already mentioned words like containers that, the insulated containers, what are they called? Guys from Sheremetyevo Cargo were talking about it. We understand it very well that what we're talking about will not work without appropriate equipment. We have Maxim Korneev, the company that he's been heading for 20 years, is developing such equipment. And Maxim, you've made a self-contained refrigerator car. So what will be in the market? Will it compete with the insulated car? 7 minutes, as usual. Could you turn on the mic? No? Yes. Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon. We are making refrigerator cars of the new generation, and I will briefly speak about the myth that the new refrigerator car is a very expensive thing. We are Rosref. We have been working for a long time. We started in collaboration with the railroad car factory, we launched a small series of small refrigerator wagons, and we tried to make a really good refrigerator. I don't say that our designers are the best ones. I'm trying to explain how our business approach resulted in our car really being available to the market. In 2021, Ural Vagon Zavod, UVZ, refused from manufacturing civilian products. We had to find new producer, and our period of pilot operation was extended 12 months, and we hoped that the new cars will arrive in the market in April next time. But actually, it was useful for us because by the result of a pilot operation of 8 cars, we made 36 amendments in the design intended to bring it closer to the market. The matter is that when you start, say, your task is to develop an innovation refrigerator car. You ask the expert opinions, you collect that information, and based on that, your designers draw something. One little problem. By definition, it's a very complex equipment, and if you listen to all of the experts without using your own experience, you may either do something state-of-the-art car that will that will cost too much and that could not be monetized, or you may design something that doesn't meet the basic needs. Well, people say one thing, do another thing, and pay for the third thing. So we were lucky to extend our pilot operation, and certain things that seemed obvious turned out to be redundant. For instance, there's an anti-vandal coating on the car so that you could remove the graffiti with cold water. Everyone says, oh, that's cool. And I said, okay, then your car, when it goes from Moscow to Vladivostok, will cost 3,500 rubles more. Well, it is very nice to have internal lighting in the car. We need to have bulbs, 120 times it traveled, and you needed those bulbs only once, and so on and so forth. So why nobody else could do it before us? Because people listen to experts and they collect something to make a spacecraft which and the price is up to the moon. Well, a refrigerator man was having lunch with me last time, and he told me, you are monsters, you will do something very expensive. And if you worked with the defense industry and you spent so much money, you will really make everyone use your very expensive car. No. And what we did after the pilot operation, and we actually risked our own skin, and we understood what was needed and what was not needed. And this allowed us to reduce the price for the carriage twice. And this provided savings for us as the owners, because we are designer and we are the manufacturer and the operator. And it radically expanded the freight base for our carriage. Previously we said it was only for the shrimp, for instance. Now we can ship water, something simple. And because we spent another year to operate the carriage, and it satisfies the needs of the market, but got rid of everything redundant. We hope that this optimized car will be, we don't lease out our carriages, we provide those for shipments. Why? Well, imagine you are at logistics department at Miratorg, and a guy comes from a railroad plant and says, here's the manual and here's the service organizations. Nobody takes that because it's not clear who designed this miracle, who built it, who. And if a company comes, like in the old times, if a company comes and I'm responsible for everything, all the technical risks are mine, that is sold. So there's a Mobius loop here because we designed it, we manufacture it, we operate it, we service it, we maintain it, and we know what breaks, what people use and what people don't use. And each time we can optimize the equipment more and more. Now, this is the third version of design documentation, but as soon as we launch it, we will start collecting hypotheses and stats for the fourth version. So we will be renewing our design like the designers of iPhone, that's once a year. Well, that's in simple words, everything, and here's my contacts. So you decided to be the only and the unique ones, and you produce those refrigerator carriages for yourself. I'm telling all the plants that tried to design it, those carriages cannot be designed in an office. Like in the times of the USSR, the Ministry of Railroads was the operator, was the customer, was the maintenance organization, and that was sold. And if you think what should be carried by that car, and the only business model that works is ours. And we are the first ones to work in this paradigm. Well, self-assuredness is a good quality, so we wish you success. And that confirms that the golden average is a good thing. When you balance the requests and the needs, you produce the optimal thing. So I failed to speak about the insulated car. There's another trick that we understood thanks to our partners who operate our carriages. It is the refrigerator of and the insulated cars is nothing contradictory. If you just switch off the refrigerator in our car, it will become an insulated car. So we just remove the fuel costs from the rate. So 3 in 1. Well, that's a recipe for success in a way. Thank you very much. And thank you. And probably the honorary right to conclude, and the last presentation is always remembered, is for Andrei Sidorov. We talked a lot about the technologies, about the regulations. We saw how RZD is working. We see what's used in the market of technological equipment. And now my question is, you represent a company that implements difficult digital projects in the market of cold chains. So what are the clients' requests to you? The most vivid ones. Well, here's Maxim, one of our most vivid clients. Maxim came with their request, and that's remote control of the refrigerator, and others come with other requests. The pharmaceutical distributors come with third requests. So we have rather a big base of partners and clients. It depends on the business objectives of the companies. I wanted to talk today about the practical part, about the pilot experiment, which is underway right now. It's not complete yet. We are in the process of operation. I will be trying to be brief. As for the loss of fish products, well, that's something we know. We know that that can happen at any stage of transportation or storage. And to minimize this loss, one needs to use the continuous control, unbroken control of the cold chain. This can be voluntary and mandatory. As for the voluntary certification, in general, this is something very well developed both in the global and in the domestic market, and there are certain standards that confirm the origin of product and also provide information about the supply chain, the observance of the rules of transportation and storage. One of the entities of the Russian Federation decided to experiment in continuous control of the cold chain, and that is the Corning company. The purpose of the pilot project is to get information about the temperature online at every stage, starting from the harvest to the shelf in the store, and to get the data about the products through veterinary certificates, which provide information about the date of the harvest and the condition of the product at control points. So the veterinary certificate helps us to identify the batch of the products. The equipment sends data online. The data must be reliable. In our case, these are the measurement instruments, verification instruments, control of the location. We know that the sensors are where we place them, and the data about the equipment, and all that information comes to the server. As a result, all of this will allow us to provide a continuous graph which will be related to a batch. So there will be a batch. We will collect information at every stage of the cold chain based on veterinary certificates. We upload it into a single temperature graph, and this will allow the entity to issue a quality sign and to provide incentive to the producer. And my main idea is that there are some mandatory requirements, and there may be some voluntary obligations that should be promoted. And I think we should rather provide incentives than prohibit things. And there aren't too many projects like that. I would like to have more of these. Andrei, in essence, we can state that the request for the request goes from the grassroots. The request goes from the businesses. Yes, no, from the state. The state, the government is interested in providing incentives to fair producers, and as a result, in greater consumption of fish products, and the consumer will vote with his money when they see that the temperature conditions were observed throughout the way, and all the temperature may have been observed, but there is no information. In this case, we have reliable information about it. Actually, we have completed this circle. Alexander was talking about the objectives for the Center for Monitoring, Fishing Monitoring, and your company is the agency that renders all of the information to the customer. Well, I will correct you. This is not our project. This is a project of one of the entities of the Russian Federation. We just provide tools to them. But in general, we can state that there is a comprehensive understanding by the government that probably the buyer, and each of us is a buyer, should understand what they are buying, what they are consuming, and the resources are developed to this end to make the situation transparent and, as you correctly said, to vote with our wallet.
No.
In our life, all of us actually use the mouse-to-mouse communication, or just look at various social projects, or there is another important issue which comes to quality, because when you go shopping, you always want to be sure that the product that you buy was not only made under good conditions, but then was also transported and stored under good conditions. All this is clear. However, the speaker is not using a microphone. Well, look, if we say that everything should work perfectly well, then when we issue a certificate, we understand that the date when the cargo was delivered to the warehouse and when it was loaded or unloaded, depending on the stage that we monitor, there is always a manager, but the best scenario is when everything is marked. And if the pallet of frozen fish was kept at the sun and then sent to the warehouse, then there will be really a very big temperature difference, and over 30 minutes in the warehouse, it won't be able to get frozen, well frozen. And thus, possibly, we need to put in certain sensors into the pallets and having loggers inside the pallets just to record the time used for loading and unloading. So your question is quite correct. We do need some loggers to duplicate the information and the data. Thank you very much. It's quite encouraging that we receive such good questions from many people, including those who develop and implement these technologies. Thank you very much, colleagues. Even though possibly we do need to apply artificial intelligence at a larger scale to stick to the time schedule, thank you very much for a very interesting discussion. Mr. Mikhail, I'd like to congratulate you on having conducted such a productive conference today. It's important for us to be abreast of all the latest developments in our industry. And I do hope that a year from now at our next conference, our colleagues attending this conference today will be able to report to us their success stories about the implementation of certain technologies and how they implemented various useful things. So Once again, I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank the audience for having tolerated such a hard day. Good luck to everybody, good health, and take care.
Коллеги,
Oh, colleagues, please let us take a picture of all of us.